Out on the homestead where life feels whole, we're planting seeds, nurturing the soul. Clean living, organic, straight from the land. With every sunrise, we take his hand. God provides from soil to sky, the food we eat, the herbs that heal in his creation.
Welcome back, everybody, to the 4th episode of the Healthy Homestead Podcast. I'm your host, Ron, and I'm here with my beautiful wife, Lisa.
Hello.
It is the busy time of the year for us, so between planting and growing and weeding a lot, mowing, hucking 75-pound hay bales, which I'm just getting too old for that. Anyway, so it's been a hot minute since our last episode, but we're going to try to get back into the groove and have a couple per month at least. So apologize for the delay, but hopefully this will make up for it. We have a 42-acre farm here in Idaho, and we have a bunch of animals and all that fun stuff. If you're interested and you haven't listened to the first and second episode, go ahead and do that. That gives you the background on Lisa and I and why we do what we do. Quite a lifestyle change from what we lived the first 28 years. Next month we're celebrating our 34th wedding anniversary.
Woohoo!
Can we be that old to have 34?
I know.
I mean, I remember when I was a kid and somebody said, so-and-so, our cousins are having their 20th wedding. I'm like, wow, how old are you? And now we're at 34. At any rate, we're not going to talk about that anymore because it's kind of depressing of how fast time goes. But
it's also kind of joyful that we've been together for 34 years and we've accomplished a lot.
Yeah, that's true. And we started out with nothing. But anyway, you can find out all that information on the first and second episode. But today's episode, we are going to talk about something that everybody can do and make, and why it is so amazing. And it's nothing new, right? This is not a, hey, try something new. This thing, bone broth is what we're going to be talking about. And it is liquid gold, folks. The Chinese used to use this thousands of years ago. It supported digestion, and it actually nourished the blood. Hippocrates actually prescribed bone broth for people that were sick. Even in the Middle Ages, they would simmer broths for a really long time, mostly to heal the sick. And Native American people across the Americas, they made really dense, nutrient-dense broths from bones and organs, and that was given primarily to the elderly or people that were sick. You see a theme here? This is good stuff if you're sick. If you're not sick and you take it, well, we're going to talk about all the amazing benefits of it and why you should consume it as often as you can. And so what is bone broth? We've all heard it. Get that picture of the little red cube out of a small jar that you dissolve in water. Do not ever have that. But let's just start with the basics. So it's basically you take animal bones. It's usually chicken, beef, or turkey, and you simmer it for a really, really long time, like 1 to 2 days even. How long do we typically do ours?
It depends on what we're making. If I do it in the crock pot, I usually let it go at least 24 hours, sometimes longer. If we're doing it on the stove, which when we do it, we make a really big batch, so we're using our camp stove and we're doing it outside, then it's going to probably be, just 1 day because we can't really let it sit overnight. But even then, it's 8 hours minimum, 10 hours, something like that.
So why do you do it so long? What's the benefit or the importance? The longer it goes, the more collagen, minerals, and amino acids are released into the broth. And it just creates a not only super healthy, nutrient-dense, vitamin, amino acid-packed amazingness. Is that a word? It is now. But it really, really tastes good. So it's slightly gelatinous a little bit when it gets cooled. But it has so many benefits of it. And Lisa, why don't you share just some of the benefits, and then I'll chime in if there's any that I think you missed, which I doubt you will. But I have a couple of my own.
You have maybe heard or seen in the stores bone broth that you can buy already made. And it's kind of a big fad, I guess, in a way right now. Maybe it has been for a little while. But the bone broth that you see at the store, while I'm sure that it is perfectly fine, is very expensive. You can't just go pick up, your $2 thing of broth. If it's bone broth, they're charging $6, $7, $8, $9. And so really something that can be very economical to make and not that difficult. Why would you spend that much money? If you are on a tighter budget and you want to make the most of your, your budget and your time even, because it's really a hands-off process for the most part. It's really easy to make it yourself. And if you're already buying meat, whole chickens, for example, if you're buying whole chickens and you're roasting them or whatever, after you eat the meat, you just take those bones and instead of throwing them in the trash, you put them in a crock pot and you let them sit with water, and you can add other stuff to it too.
I will chime in.
Yeah,
here,
we'll talk about that a little bit more.
But I wanted to chime in and interrupt you because, that's what I do. I'm sure some of you may, and we get asked this quite a bit from customers that come onto our farm and pick up eggs and such, but is it better to have organically raised chicken, organically raised pork, organically raised turkey? Absolutely it is. Because what people don't realize, or maybe they do, but it's not talked about a lot, is what an animal consumes during its life prior to us consuming it. We are eating what they ate. So if they are fed GMO and not healthy things, guess what? It goes right into their bones. It goes right into their muscles. It goes into their entire system. And then guess what we get to do? We consume it. So,
and the other thing that's kind of more prevalent now, right, is we don't know the store-bought chickens or whatever animals you're buying. They may be vaccinated, and maybe you don't want that, right? That's kind of a newer concern that we don't always have control over. So, just something to be aware of as far as what you're putting in your body. Of course, we raise our own chickens here, so we know exactly what goes into them.
Well,
but I understand that not everybody can do that. So,
and our pork and our turkey.
Right.
So yeah, our bone broth and our beef. It's amazing and clean. And I'm going to have an ADHD or ADD or both moment. If you are consuming those beautiful, inexpensive chickens from Costco, I want you to really do some research. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but Google it. Ask AI if you're into that. Those chickens are horrible. Do not consume those. One, it is full of about 6 different chemicals. It is completely smothered in sugar. That's the bottom brown stuff that sticks to the bottom.
Let me just clarify. We're talking about the rotisserie chickens.
Yes, the rotisserie chickens that you pick up at Costco. And it's bad. Not only is it bad, period, they pump them so full of things to grow fast. Do you know what the average number of weeks a Costco rotisserie chicken lives? 6 weeks. Typically, most meat birds are anywhere between 10 and 16 weeks, depending, of course, on the breed. But 6 weeks. So that tells you how it's not normal. And then guess what they do? It's nice and hot, and it gets off that, the, what's that called in the...
Steam?
No, the big long thing that you stick the chickens through. They're on the rotisserie, right? And you can see them, and they take them off that big spike, and then they throw it in a plastic bag and seal it. So you have something super hot in plastic. But anyway, just do your research and stop eating that kind of chicken. It's horrible. Let's get back on track of what are some of the other benefits of bone broth.
Well, bone broth is loaded with gelatin. like Ron said, once you boil it and it cools, you might notice that it's really thick and gelatinous. And that's a really good thing. If you have that, if your bone broth turns out like that, then that's good stuff. The gelatin helps repair your gut lining and supports digestion. So, it's collagen basically that's in there. And collagen is good for bones, hair, skin, teeth. And so joint and skin support, there's amino acids like glycine and proline, both in bone broth, and they're really good for reducing inflammation.
And glycine, Lisa just mentioned, it's actually a natural neurotransmitter. So what that does is it will help promote relaxation. And, have a half a cup of that 30 minutes before bed. It can actually help increase or improve some sleep. And it reduces anxiety. And it can, in many cases, improve mental clarity. So maybe I should be drinking about a gallon every morning.
Also, it's immune boosting. There's tons of minerals that come out of the bones when you simmer it for a long period of time, including calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus. And they're in a form that is easy for your body to absorb. So if you're taking supplemental calcium, magnesium, or phosphorus, this is a way to, maybe get a better available source of that for your body. And then Ron mentioned the sleep support, also for your blood sugar, something that kind of helps regulate your blood sugar. And here's another really interesting benefit. If it's good for you, it's also good for your pets. Yeah, if you have animals, dogs, cats, and you can imagine a dog is going to be pretty jacked about getting some bone broth poured over their food, right? It tastes really good to them as well, with all the same kind of health benefits for them.
Yeah.
So it's a nice way to supplement your pet's diet, especially if you have an aging dog or something like that needs that collagen support or those amino acids. Just a nice, easy way to supplement for your pets.
Yeah, and of course, check with your vet if you're worried about it. But, you can get online and get krill oil, or you can get supplements for your dogs. And that stuff is expensive. I mean, the pet industry is a $2 billion or more a year industry. Why? Why would you buy all of that stuff? Well, you do it to help your pet. We get it. We have 2 German Shepherds, and they are around the farm, and they get a lot of movement, and they get sore, just like us, right? And take a little bit of bone broth, throw it over. 1, they're going to love it, and 2, it is super, super good for them. And you don't need to go order off of Amazon or wherever you buy and spend extra money. When you can not only do it yourself super inexpensively, it's 100% better for them, or more. So yeah.
All right.
Oh, the other thing too, and this is the last benefit I'm aware of, but right, a lot of people will go get Gatorade. Shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not shaming you, but that's full of dyes and horrible stuff. Even Pedialyte, which is supposed to be really good, is not. But we all need electrolytes, especially if you're outside, you're an athlete, or you're doing long walks or whatever. Bone broth, it's a natural source of electrolytes. It gives you potassium, magnesium, and sodium. It'll really help hydrate you if you need that. It's really good if you're during fasting, if you do fasting, or if you might be on a low carb diet. It's basically, it's good for everyone, and it's good for many, many things, right? But how does one make it, right? Now, you kind of touched on it, but maybe you can explain how we make it here.
Sure. And
then others can adjust, how they do it where they are.
Well, it's super easy. Like I said, it's mostly hands-off. There's a little bit of prep work, and then there's a little bit of, strain it and store it work. But the rest of it, you're just simmering it on a low temperature and letting it be. So it's pretty hands-off. You can start it in the morning, let it go all day, or even all day and all night, and then, deal with it the next day. You just take your bones, and that can be chicken, beef, turkey. You can even do pork if you have a clean source of pork.
You can,
and if you like the taste of that.
Can you do big beef bones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Super big bones is fine. And if you have a reputable butcher, I know that in our area, you can go to some of the grocery stores and they have them packaged specifically saying soup bones, and surprisingly not always as cheap as you might expect for what it is, because, in the past, these kind of cuts, these kind of bones have just been sort of considered a waste product by the butchers. But because of the revolution in people figuring this all out, of course the stores are going to capitalize on that. So maybe if you have a local butcher that has their meat is clean, it's organically raised or it's grass-fed or whatever, go to them and just say, hey, can I get some soup bones and beef or chicken or whatever it is you want? And usually you can get them. Sometimes even like we've gotten some in really big bags. Really big.
Nurture that relationship with your local butcher, because most butchers are way too busy. They're not making beef broth. They're not making broth, right? I think a lot of butchers may just bag them up and sell them super cheap. But if you support a local butcher, as we recommend you do, my brother has a good friend. He owns a really big production here, and he supplies everybody with everything. We can go in and get bones if we don't have enough that we raise here on the farm. I mean, he'll just give them to us. But nurture that relationship and get them from a local butcher. You're not only getting better bones, but you are helping support somebody in your community, which we are advocates for.
Yeah. So you have your bones, whatever they are, filtered water. And honestly, I don't use filtered water because we have a well, but most recipes will say filtered water. A splash of apple cider vinegar. And be aware when you're buying apple cider vinegar, look at the words on the label, because oftentimes you'll see it'll say apple cider flavored vinegar, and it's not real apple cider vinegar. You want the stuff that has the mother in it, that has that little cloudy mass at the bottom. And there's lots of good brands out there. We actually get ours at Costco typically. So you want the good kind of apple cider vinegar, not just the flavored stuff. And that is because it helps extract the collagen and all those beneficial nutrients from the bones. And you don't need very much. It's just a little bit.
And you also, when you make ours, you put like carrots and celery and onions. Now, does that help add more vitamins and nutrients, or is it just for the flavor?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both, yeah. You can add, and there's different recipes out there. Like you can go look up recipes for bone broth. There's lots of different options of things you can put in there. If you're using it for your pets, there might be some ingredients that you want to eliminate. So just, if you're specifically wanting it for your pets, maybe look that up as a recipe for dogs.
And look in the notes of the podcast, and we'll have a link to the recipe that Lisa uses. So we'll share that. So you can just
put in all kinds of veggie scraps, onions, carrots, celery, garlic, bay leaves, peppercorns, what other kind of herbs. Turmeric is a really good thing to toss in there, and some salt. Whatever you want it to taste like. And so if you're a food scrap collector, right, you don't have to throw away all your food scraps. I take pieces of carrot that I've trimmed that I'm not using for whatever I'm making with carrots, and I throw them in a bag and I keep them in the freezer. And if I'm making bone broth, I pull out my bag of carrots and they're all ready to go. So it's not really even extra work at that point, because you're kind of doing that prep work as you go along through your daily life cooking things. You can just put all those scraps in a bag in the freezer and then pull them out when you need them. So, yeah, the directions are basically just to throw everything in a big stock pot, cover it with water. I like to use a slow cooker if I'm making a smaller batch, just because, like I said, you can let it go for 24 hours or even longer, and you don't have to touch it. It's super easy.
But make sure, though, if you have big, beef bones, you can only fit so much in a slow, but it's super important that when you leave that to simmer for 1 or 2 days or however long you want to do it, when you lift up that lid, there should be no bones out of the water. They've got to be fully submerged, or else you're not going to get all of the benefit and all the nutrients out of that bone. So make sure it's covered.
Yeah. You're just going to simmer it. Some recipes still say bring it to a boil. Some recipes will actually have you roast the bones first. And that just brings out a different richness of flavor. So that's optional. It's easy. I mean, you throw them on a big cookie sheet and you roast them in the oven for a while before you put them in the water. So that's another option, but it's totally not necessary. So you can do that. You just let it simmer and leave it alone and put the lid on and walk away. When it's done, when you feel like it's ready to go, then you're just going to strain all that stuff out. And also, here's another note. If you don't want to strain out all the veggies that you put in, at least for pets, you can blend it all up and include it, keep it in there. It's totally fine to do that. Most people, if you're drinking bone broth, you want it more clear. So that's another option. You can do it either way. But strain it, cool it, and store it in a glass jar in the fridge, or you can freeze it in ice cube molds or bigger, soup molds for freezing. For us, I always can it so that I can keep it on the shelf. And if you're going to can your bone broth, you've got to do it in a pressure canner. You cannot water bath can it. And you'd have to look up, the method for doing that. If you're making your own bone broth, I suspect you might already be in the canning realm. So just look up the timing, for how long that needs to go in your pressure canner, and then you can keep it on your shelf. Super easy.
So you have this beautiful, amazing bone broth, and we have so many jars of it. It's amazing. But what you can do, you can use it in a lot of different ways. You can use it as obviously base for soups or stews. You can actually cook rice in it, add it to mashed potatoes. Then you don't need as much gravy if that's something you're not trying to consume. You can sprinkle it on salads, or I like to just, and I haven't done it in a while, being honest, because it's just a busy time of year and I don't even think about it, but just heat it up a little bit and sip it like coffee. It's so good. It's just so good.
It's really nice in the winter when it's cold out.
Yeah,
in the summer, you don't think about it as much because you're not necessarily drinking hot drinks, but it is really good, and especially in the winter because that's cold and flu season, right? So it's a great way to boost your immunity at the same time while you're having a little warm drink.
Yeah, and for those of you that are on a farm and may already do this, or I'm assuming a lot of people listening don't. Maybe they're in a house or an apartment in a neighborhood and they can't do all this. But the other benefit of doing bone broth is, we process our chickens and turkeys here on our farm. Larger animals, we do not. But, we give thanks out loud for every bird prior to dispatching it. And people are like, yeah, it's so silly. It's a chicken. It's a dumb bird. And I'm like, yeah, well, no, they're actually pretty smart. And secondly, they're giving their life for me and others to consume. And I love what Native Americans always did, and hopefully still do, but not like in the old days. They used all of the animal, right? And I think that's honorable. When we process our chickens, we use the hearts and the livers, and we make dog treats, which are sold out on our store. We use, obviously, everything except for the feet, the head, and the feathers. And so we use their bones to make broth. And so it's just another way to appreciate the entire animal that's giving its life for us. And most people, they'll have a chicken sandwich, they'll have chicken fingers, they'll have a hamburger. They don't ever think of where it actually came from and that an animal gave its life. But making bone broth, it's so easy and so healthy. And you're again utilizing more of the animal. And why would you not want to if you have that opportunity?
By the way, some people also put the chicken's feet in their bone broth. That is extremely collagen rich. I know you can buy them chicken's feet for dog treats as well. We actually don't do that at the moment, but it's just another option, another thing that you can use if you so desire. And there's a process for cleaning that and making sure it's sanitary and all that. We haven't done that in our bone broth, but you definitely can, and it makes it super, super gelatinous when you do that.
Yeah, there's just something about the feet. I mean, we could probably sell them to some local folks around here, but we just don't. We process 120 at a time, and we just don't. But if you do, good on you. We just don't have that in our mode. And if you start making bone broth, or if you're already making it, it's more than just the nutrients and using all the animal. I mean, it's all of that, right? But it's being intentional and slowing down and making something really from scratch, and it's just kind of a mindset. And when you start feeling better and you start tasting how good bone broth and other things that you may raise on your property, whether it's just plants or maybe you have some animals, it's a mindset. We give tours out here a lot, excuse me, all the time during this time of year. In fact, we have 4 on Saturday. And since we see all the animals and we see the ground and we see what we grow and we harvest it and we're eating it, 95% of our meals is everything we grew or raised here on the farm. And I don't think we take it for granted, but it's easy to forget because we're reminded every time somebody comes out here that, oh my gosh, you can do this and you do this and what? And it's this easy, or wow, I've never thought of, and so it's really a mindset.
It is. We recently had a big group out here, and they were students, and we had a young man, he was probably 4th or 5th grade maybe, and we were showing them all the baby chicks, and we were talking about how, these chicks are going to be laying eggs, and these other chicks, they're going to be for meat. And he was kind of upset by the fact that we were talking about how we were going to turn those chickens into food. And, he got kind of confrontational about it, to be honest. And I said, well, I understand that it's upsetting to some people. But I said, do you ever eat chicken? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, where do you think that chicken comes from? It doesn't just magically appear in the store. It has to come from somewhere.
But that's what most people think.
Right. And so people are just really disconnected from the source of their food, and most people are pretty mindless about the way that they eat. So what you were saying about being super intentional with, what we're doing and understanding the processes, we're really connected to the ground here. We're really connected to the animals. And it's just very grounding in a way. Like, we know what we're doing it with intention, and we are benefiting from it, and we give our animals a really good life. And I don't, I understand, even for me, the first time we decided we were going to process our own chickens, that's a hard thing to come to terms with. Really, it is.
Literally, I was like, I was like almost teared up. I'm like, I cannot do this anymore.
We didn't know if we'd be able to do it, but right, somebody has to do it, and somebody has to do it for all the chicken that you eat and all the beef that you eat. And so we feel better about knowing the life that we give them before it comes to that point. They have a great life. And their purpose here, we believe, is God has given us all the animals to have dominion over and to feed us. Mm-hmm. So that is their purpose in life. And as hard as it can be, you have to kind of get past that to a point. And when you are really involved and invested in the whole process, it makes a huge difference. And you're so much more thankful and grateful when you do sit down to eat a meal that has that food in it, and you can say, listen, I did this. This is all us. We did this together. And there's something very fulfilling and deep rooted about that.
Yeah, slowing down and being connected, and I fail often, but if you are intentional with what God has provided you, people come out here and they say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Of course, they don't see all the hard work behind the scenes and unloading, 388 75-pound bales of hay or weeding. They see the end product. But God has provided what you need, or He will if you ask. And, we have dandelions everywhere. And I've written many blogs, and you've probably seen the videos, how beneficial those are. We don't see dandelions as weeds. Most people will kill them and spray them with Roundup, which is a whole nother show. We don't. We pick them and double wash them, and we sell them. I mean, it's medicine. There's huge, tall, beautiful weeds called amaranth. It's 1,000-year-old grain. Those are cut down and burned, and people just like, oh, it's a weed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, do you know how expensive this is if you bought it? We have a black walnut tree growing right here in our creek. We haven't really done much with it, but we could. We could harvest the walnuts. We have our orchard and all. God is providing medicine and food right in your backyard, right in your garden, or a local farm that's near you. So support those people and really enjoy consuming healthy food. And so, like, if you get these chicken bones or beef bones or whatever, and you're not going to be able to make broth right away, no big deal. Put the bones in a bag and freeze them. You just, you don't want to put them in the fridge for 3 weeks and then decide it. Put them in the freezer. Use a slow cooker. It's that way you don't have to babysit it. Make sure the bones are covered, and put it on low. So most crock pots or slow cookers, they have low, medium, and high. Put it on low. If you put it on medium or high, it'll cook too fast. It won't smell good. It'll not taste, very good either. So always do it.
Yeah, you don't want to overboil it and disperse all those nutrients out, right? You just want to keep it low and slow. Something else that I didn't mention, when you get to, getting close to ready to take the broth out of whatever pot you're using to cook it in, you may want to skim the top of it. There is sometimes a foam that kind of comes up, and so just take a little strainer or a spoon even and just skim that off if you don't want to have that as part of your bone broth. It can be a little unsightly, but it's not going to hurt you.
We've actually had quite a few people ask, well, you have so much food and veggies and stuff that you created on your store that you freeze dry. Can you sell some of your bone broth freeze dried? And we sure can. And maybe we'll throw it on the store if you don't want to mess with it and you just want to get freeze dried and just add a little water, and you'll have bone broth that's created from
instant.
It's instant. So so maybe we'll throw that on the store and offer that. It's so healthy and so good. It's delicious.
And if you have your own freeze dryer and you want to freeze dry it, keep it in a jar after it's freeze dried with an oxygen absorber, and then you can just add that to your soups or your stews or whatever without even rehydrating it, because you're already putting it into liquid. So you're going to get that extra boost of nutrition and flavor. Really simple. And
you can make a lot of bone broth for literally, I'm just going to throw a number out there, I bet you could make enough bone broth for your family for months for under $20, because carrots are cheap, bones, depending on if you nurture that relationship with your butcher. It's really inexpensive, and people spend so much money on these supplements and these pills and these the newest thing, and it's going to make me give energy, and stop. God has given the body can heal itself, but it needs good medicine, and good medicine is good quality food. So I'm not suggesting that you don't want to take supplements and all that, don't get me wrong, but fill your body with good stuff and you're going to feel good. Fill your body with garbage, you're not going to feel so great. And so you can take this episode for what it's worth. Don't forget. Is there anything else you want to add about bone broth?
I don't think so.
Okay, again, check the links. We'll put a few links, the recipe and some other links in the notes section of this podcast. If you're happening to be listening on YouTube, you can check the description and the links will be in there. Don't forget, we have a lot of songs that we've created about the farm you can listen to on our website, which is bffidaho.com. You can also sponsor an animal, order one of 40 some products of freeze-dried items that we sell all over the country. And we really would appreciate it if you've enjoyed this episode. Share it with somebody. If you would leave a review, that would even be phenomenal. Not because we want to get on and say, look, we have 5-star, but the more reviews it gets, the easier it is for people to find us. So keep tending to your health, your home, and we just wish the best for you. And if you have any questions about this or any other previous episode, just go to our website, bffidaho.com, and click on Contact.
Out on the homestead, where life feels whole, we're planting seeds, nurturing the soul. Clean living, organic, straight from the land. With every sunrise, we take his hand. God provides from soil to sky, the food we eat, the herbs that heal. In his creation, we find our way to live with purpose every day. The healthy homestead where peace is grown, a place of love, a life well known. Alternative paths where wisdom leads, nature's bounty fulfills our needs. Helping each other, sharing the light. In simple living, we find delight. God provides from soil to sky, the food we eat, the herbs that heal. In his creation, we find our way to live with purpose every day. The healthy homestead where peace is grown, a place of love, a life well known. With every plant, every tree, a reminder of his gift so free. From the earth beneath to the skies above, we walk this path in grace and love. God provides from soil to sky, the food we eat, the herbs that heal. In his creation, we find our way to live with purpose every day. The healthy homestead where peace is grown, a place of love, a life well known. The healthy homestead, come and stay. Find joy in life, God's perfect way. The healthy homestead, come and stay. Find joy in life, God's perfect way.